It is me, Madi W. You may have seen my other Pencilish video where I was creating concept art for Juju Brain, and this time I'm doing something very different but just as exciting. It's in-betweening. If you don't know what in-betweening is, it is less of a highfalutin job because it's more simple a lot of the time, but the head animator, in this case Joel Guthrie, very talented animator, sent me the keyframes, which are complete drawings, and there's some frames in between those that need to be drawn, but it's too much busy work and we want to use Joel's talent elsewhere, so they'll send it to me and I will fill in those frames because it's more or less simple. And the animator will leave a chart here for me to follow that shows exactly where I need to draw these in. So, for example, I'm going to be taking you through drawing frame 92. Here is the chart that Joel left me on frame 90. So frame 90, frame 94, that's what he drew. Do I draw it halfway in between these two? No, because you see on the timing chart, it's divided into thirds. Sometimes it's half, but in this case it's third. And so I'll draw frame 92 a third of the way in between 90 and 94. And so this looks complicated, but it's actually really easy. And the onion skin makes it really easy. I'm so grateful for onion skins because at our school we animate on paper for the first whole year, and we don't have whiteboards, so you kind of just have to eyeball it without the onion skins, like this. So I'd be like, I think it was there. Oh, and then it just looks terrible. I actually didn't know how to use digital onion skin until like last year, and it changed my life. The digital onion skin colors them for you, so the red line here is the previous frame, and the green line here is the next frame. So I just have to draw a line that's a third of the way in between the red frame, frame 90, and the green frame, frame 94. And this is what it looks like. 90, 94, 1/3 of the way between those. And you just do a third of the way in between on all of them and like connect the dots. Bam. I don't actually draw those dots in, that was for your own sake. And in some cases, it's really easy because they overlap. So you just have to trace that line, which is kind of soothing. It's like those videos of like satisfying. It's also difficult if you drink a lot of coffee. Sometimes I make that mistake and I'll try to draw the straight line. It'll be like, whoosh, oh, ah. So don't drink too much coffee before in-betweening. Learn that the hard way. But sometimes it's more complicated, like with the hair. So, okay, here's a third of the way in between these two lines. And something important to keep in mind when in-betweening is the change in lines. Sometimes they just change location, where it's like, oh, I'm gonna move the ear slightly over. But a lot of times it changes shapes and layering. So here you see it goes from the ear being in front to the head being in front. And so I have to make sure to not do what I did on accident and slow that and show how it changes without anyone noticing that it's changing super subtly. There we go. This looks too thick. Oh. Okay. So the horn is the most difficult part of this because it changes location and it changes shape on all the lines. There's only, what I learned in figure drawing, 3 kinds of line. CSI, baby, that's what they say. You know, and some people say it's all C lines. That's drama in the art, world. Because an S line could just be 2 C lines, and an I line could just be straight. But it helps me to think of the CSI different kinds of line. So when you're looking at 2 points, it's either one of those 3. So the eyebrows are S lines, if you see. They go like, and they go from, in this scene, more intense S's. Well, that's not a good example. In some scenes they change shape. Yeah, see, it goes from an S here to a C here. So when you're doing the in-between for that, oops. I actually didn't have to in-between that, but it looks something like where the C is slightly starting to take over the S, and then eventually it just turned into C. So when you're doing the horn, it's complicated because it goes from, switches between I and C lines. See I here and C here. And when you're in between this, you've got to make sure that you keep it consistent in changing. You can't suddenly draw a straight line in between. It has to be, oops, this isn't the right layer. Oh, have I already drawn this? Let me erase it. Wait, this is the wrong one. There we go. This is what I was looking for. It's got to be from the I line to the C line. And it's really subtle, but if you draw too sharp of a C line in between, that's sharper than this one, it'll look weird. Or if you draw an I line in between, it'll look weird. It has to be 1/3 of the way in location and 1/3 of the way in curve. So slowly transforming from that C shape to that I shape. And of course I don't normally draw those things at the end, that's just to show you. And same with all the little striations on the horn. They also follow that rule, so it's kind of complicated to draw. See, very sharp too. Woo! Very thin. And I bet you're probably wondering, why does it change shape like that? Well, good thing I drew this little perspective chart in for you. So this is a perspective grid. If you don't know what it is, you really should learn. They're the best thing in the world, ever. Yeah. So if you're gonna be an artist, you definitely need to know this. And it explains why this goes from a C curve to an I curve. It's not just random. Joel knows this because he knows perspective grids. When you have a cylinder, like this is a big cylinder, pretend. And it's transparent so you can see both ends. When you draw in, like say I cut it here, I make a cut in it. It's also going to be a circle shape or an ellipse shape. And the ellipse is going to change depending on how close it is to the horizon line / your eye line. This is your eye line or the horizon line. So if you squat down, the eye line will get lower in this whole thing. Sorry, I'm getting really deep into the perspective grid lore. It's so good though, it's great and helpful. But if you are close, if the cylinder is closer to the horizon line, it's more of a straight line and a more narrow ellipse. Until if you're at the horizon line exactly, it will be just a line. And if you're looking directly up, it would be a complete circle if you go all the way. But that never happens because no frame is that big. But all the way as it goes up, it gets more and more wide of an ellipse. And you see this line goes from an I shape to a C shape. What? And so we see that in a really small way on this horn as it's changing. It goes from the C shape, a wider ellipse, to an I shape, this more narrow ellipse. And all these striations do the same thing. Wide ellipse, wide ellipse, wide ellipse. I'm just drawing through. To narrow ellipse, narrow ellipse, narrow ellipse. And of course we can't see the back side of the striations since it's not a see-through horn. So it ends up looking like what Joel drew. And animators are so talented, they can just do that without even having to look at the other side of the horn or drawing in the perspective grid. It's amazing, seriously. So much respect. So my job is to draw in between the C and the I, as I said, in 3D space, like that. And sometimes it really helps me to draw the ends first, and then that way I can focus on the change in direction first, and then the change in shape. So bam, look at that. It's moving, it's alive, it looks like it's 3D because of all those elements underlaying what we were doing. So what I was doing was pretty much just drawing in between this line and this line, like there, but in a different way. And that went a little bit long, but I bet you learned something. Probably, I hope. I hope you get to in-between something because it's really fun. Maybe you get to in-between your own work, or you can download like keyframes from the internet and in-between them yourself. I've seen people doing exercises where they download Milk Calls keyframes with the timing charts and then fill in the timing charts themselves. So that would be a fun activity to do. But I hope you have a great day, and thanks for watching this video.
If you like what you just saw, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, Pencilish Studios.